Hello, welcome back to Miss Curley reading Sam Wu is Not Afraid of Spiders by Katie and Kevin Tsang. Today I'm going to be reading chapter 13, which is called The Trap. I wonder who the trap is going to be for. I met Zoe and Bernard at our spot by the fence the next day before school. I'd told my mum that I was bringing the beekeeper hat into school for a project about bees. Your school has a lot of interesting projects, she said, raising an eyebrow, but luckily hadn't asked any more questions. She had, however, checked Lucy's backpack to make sure she wasn't trying to smuggle Butterbutt to school again. Sam, said Bernard seriously while inspecting my beekeeper hat, you know that you're going to be the one to actually catch Tulip because you have the best protective gear. It was true, I did. All Bernard had been able to find at home were basic plastic gloves that his dad used while cleaning fossils. Zoe had a pair of her older brother's ski gloves, but they were too big and made her hands bulky. We'll help you, of course, said Zoe, looking a bit relieved. We decided not to go in before school started, like we had yesterday. Today we were going to sneak in from the playground during recess and hope that would give us enough time to set our honey traps and find Tulip. Recess was only 20 minutes long, so every minute would count. What happens if we can't find Tulip in time? Zoe asked. We'll come back in at lunch and look again, I said. The honey traps will have definitely caught Tulip by then. But won't someone clean up the honey while we're in class? Asked Zoe. I frowned. I hadn't thought of that. I know, said Bernard. We'll put up signs next to the honey saying it's for a science experiment and to leave it there. Brilliant, I said. This was definitely going to work. I was sure of it. It was very hard to concentrate that morning in class. While we were working on our spellings, Regina came over to my desk. Sam, she whispered, I couldn't find any gloves at home. Then she lowered her voice even more. And I think Ralph knows that we're up to something. I looked over at Ralph, and sure enough, he was glaring at me over his spellings. Since I don't have any gloves anyway, I thought maybe I could lead Ralph off the trail. Make sure he doesn't follow you guys at recess, said Regina. We don't want him to spoil the plan. Regina, that's genius, I said. I tried to snap my fingers, but I don't know how, so it didn't have the effect I was looking for. But at least now we wouldn't have to worry about Ralph. I'm glad I can still be part of the mission, said Regina. A very important part, I said. And don't worry, you do your part and we'll handle the rest. Regina grinned. Good luck, Sam. Finally, it was recess. Instead of running outside like we usually did, Zoe, Bernard and I lingered in the classroom. I saw Ralph eyeing us suspiciously, but then Regina went over to him. Ralph, she said loudly, will you come to the front office with me? I have to call Mum. I think she forgot to pack our lunch. No lunch, exclaimed Ralph. I thought she put it in my backpack this morning. Regina shook her head. Well, I don't have any, and even if you do, you'll have to split it with me. Ralph's face dropped. He does not like sharing food. Okay, I'll go with you to the office. He didn't even look back at us as he hurried after Regina. Out the rest of you go, said Miss Winkleworth over her shoulder as she became distracted by something on her computer. We seized our chance and raced down the hall, away from the classroom and towards Mr. Dougal's science lab. We had figured it would be best to start near where Tulip had been spotted. Bernard poked his head in and confirmed that there was no sign of Mr. Dougal or Tulip. Then we started setting our honey traps. We each had a jar of Melinda's honey and a stack of paper that said, "Honey is for science experiment. Do not clean up." Bernard had made them during class after he finished his spelling assignment. He has the neatest handwriting of us all. We went along the hallway, pouring out puddles of honey in corners that looked like they might be appealing to spiders. "We'll have to retrace our steps," said Bernard, "to see if our traps have caught anything." "Good idea," I said. We reached the end of the hallway and were about to turn back round to check our traps when I noticed a supply closet door propped open by a mop. "Maybe we should put a trap in here," I said, poking my head inside. "It looks like the kind of place a spider might like." Bernard and Zoe followed me in. But as Bernard stepped inside, he fell into the mop, knocking it over and out of the way of the door, which then slammed shut. "Whoops," he said. Zoe went to open the door. It didn't budge. She pushed harder. The door stayed shut. She turned to us with wide eyes. "I think we're locked in." "There's no way we're locked in," I said. "Your hands just must be slippery from all the honey. Here, let me try." I took off one of Nana's gardening gloves and yanked on the doorknob. It didn't move. I gulped. Zoe was right. We were completely locked in. Bernard started to turn very pale. If he hadn't liked being in the bushes behind my garden, he really wasn't going to like this. He doesn't even like playing hide and seek. There's a picture of them in the cupboard. "It's okay, Bernard," I said loudly. I was speaking that way to try and show how calm and confident I was. Even though my heart was beating so fast and loud in my chest, I was sure my friends could hear it. Just take deep breaths. I took my own advice and paused to take a few long breaths. I could feel myself starting to panic, but I could tell Bernard was more than scared. He was terrified, and I knew I had to be brave for him. "Hey, you guys," said Zoe in a high voice. "We're taking deep breaths," I said. "Okay, but can you take deep breaths and also look over here?" Zoe sounded even more panicked than Bernard. I looked across and saw that Zoe had hopped on top of a small footstool. And there, right in the middle of the supply closet, staring at us with her 8 eyes, was Tulip. And that's the end of the chapter. Uh-oh, what do you think Tulip's going to do with them? Well, they're all stuck in the supply closet. We'll have to find out, and we've only got 2 chapters left.